So what I've done is I have these little bags left over from another project, and what I've done is I've written on the front of this one with a Sharpie what the collie looks like. I like to keep them separate so I don't have too much of any one thing. I also sell my seeds, and I make sure I partition them out so that whoever buys from me will get a little bit of everything. So give this another shake. And then I save the leftover pods because there are dozens, if not hundreds, of seeds still left inside. So I don't get rid of that. I just set that aside, ready to be put in the little bag at the end. And what I do is, this is where this little index card comes into play. I just, one by one, say I want to put 8 of this type seed in my pouches for sale. I just pull just the seeds over. You get a little bit of chaff, but pretty much they're cleaned off. Because chaff, if it's planted with the seeds, can rot on top of the soil and cause damping off disease, which is fatal to small sprouts. And then I can use the index card kind of like a funnel. And here I have different jars that are collecting the seeds that I'm going to be selling until I bag them up. And I just dump the ones I've counted out right into the jars. And that's the way I sort my collie harvest. And if you're interested, that will be on Etsy the week of January 20th, sometime during the week, probably more toward the end, 23rd, 24th, for 2020 planting. And my collie seeds are viable usually for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. A couple years ago I planted some from that were marked as 2012, and almost I had 75% sprout rate. So they really are long-lived seeds. So give it a try, and you can start crossbreeding and collecting your collies each year. In the spring, I'll show how I plant them, which in a week or two, how I grow them on, how I pot them up, how I plant them outside, and then how I harvest at the end of the year. So check back every month or so, and there'll be some type of a collie post for my garden blog. Thanks so much. Last summer, I collected about 60 bags or more of collie seeds. I had about 60 plants, and each one, except for the ones that were hybrids, produced seeds. What I did was use a brown paper lunch bag for each plant, and I wrote on the front the colors, and if I liked it a lot, I'd put 5 stars. And I also put the size on some of them and where I picked it up from, if the leaves were flat or ruffled. And you can see on this one I put tall, and some are medium and some are short. So that's how I collect them, and they have been sitting in a dry room, and they've become really dry and ready to harvest for planting in spring of 2020. I've collected these seeds for over 20 years, so there's been a lot of crossbreeding, and I have some spectacular colors and sizes, leaf shapes, and ruffled and non-ruffled, and it's a lot of fun to see each year what they turn out as. Now on the table now is how I separate the seeds from the seed pods. Some have fallen out naturally into the bottom of the bag, but not all. I have a little index card, and I fold that in half, and I put that at the edge of a white plate. The reason being I use white for each is because then you can see the little black pepper shaped seeds. I also use an old colander that I don't use for baking anymore. What I do is I set that on the plate, and then I get one of my bags, and in here are the dried stalks with the seed pods. And what I do is I just run my fingers over that stem, and all the seed pods fall into the colander. You can also use a sieve, or there's been many times I don't use the colander and I just pull the seeds off and onto the plate very slowly because they're hard and they bounce. I like using this better because it contains them.